this is Elle. I have been gone for about 2 or 3 months, but I'm just going to ignore that and tell you what books I read in March. The first book that I finished in March was a book that I started back in January, I think, so it was quite a long while ago. That is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, the first book in the Mistborn trilogy. I gave this book 5 stars. It was really great. However, I had some trouble getting into it. Like, the first 100 pages were a bit slow for me, but the rest of it was just so good that it got 5 stars from me anyway. So for those of you who don't know, this is a fantasy book. I think it's high fantasy. I'm not completely in with all the fantasy subgenres, so don't trust me on that, but I believe that it's high fantasy. It takes place in a world where there's a magic system called allomancy, which is based on different metals. So basically, you can be a misting, which means that you can digest one metal, like copper or zinc, and then you get an ability from that metal as you digest it. And you can be a mistborn, which means that you can digest all of the allomantic metals. It's just a really fun magic system, and this book is so good. It's fast-paced, there are so much adventures and plot twists, and the main characters are really great. So yeah, I was really attached to all of the characters in this book. It was so good, and I can't wait to read the other 2 books. The next book that I read was a book that I borrowed from the library, and it was Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. This is the first book in another fantasy series called the Shattered Sea series or trilogy. I'm not sure how many books there are going to be, but it's a series of some sort anyway. This book follows Yarvi. He is a prince, and basically he did never plan to be king. He's been training to become a minister, and that's what he's been doing pretty much. But then one day both his father and his brother gets killed, so he has to take the throne. This book I gave 3 stars. I liked it, but it took me quite a long while to get into it, and also I didn't really get attached to any of the characters. I am planning to continue on with the series because I like the world and I think it has a lot of potential, but it wasn't really for me. Next up, I read To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I had some trouble reading this book. The writing style did not work for me. I felt like it was very, very slow, and to be honest, I didn't like the first half at all. I did, however, like the second half quite a lot, or like the last third. I don't know exactly what part it was, but you know, the whole court thing I really, really liked. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. The next book that I read in March was also fantasy. That was Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I really, really like this. So basically this follows a girl named Karu. She's an art student in Prague, and in her free time she works for a creature called Brimstone, and Brimstone exchanges wishes for teeth. This book was really good, guys. Like, I expected it to be, because generally I've heard a lot of good things about this series on BookTube. I borrowed the book from the library originally because I was like, yeah, the books are really expensive, so I should probably try reading this to see if I want it or not. And I read it and it was so good, and I had to buy the entire trilogy in hardback. I never buy books in hardback because they are so expensive, but these are gorgeous, and I love the first book, and I'm expecting to love the other 2, so it's kind of worth it. Look at this font and this cover. This is probably my least favorite cover out of the 3. But it's still gorgeous! Oh my god! Next up, I read a Swedish fantasy book called Odd Reality. Basically, it doesn't have an English release or anything yet, but that's what the title translates to. It's written by Nene Orms. I don't know how to say her name. Even in Swedish, I don't know how to say her name, so I apologize for that. I'm not exactly sure how to describe the plot of this book in English, because I don't really know the words that I want to say. But basically this follows a girl named Udda, which is the Swedish word for odd, so yeah, that's a thing. And she has really, really creepy dreams, and she finds out that she actually dreams of true events. And that leads her into a world of monsters and shapeshifters of all kinds. And this book was quite short, but for some reason I still felt like it could have been shorter. Like, this book was like 250 pages or something, I think. But I feel like it could have been at least 50 pages shorter. I felt like the first half of it was kind of drawn out, so yeah, I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I'm planning on reading the next book whenever it comes out. Next up, I read Lord of the Rings Book 2, The Ring Goes South. This corresponds to the second half of The Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah, I bought a box set which has 7 books instead of 3 because I just want to feel accomplished when I've finished one of them instead of having to finish an entire thick book. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I don't think that I need to describe the plot because you probably have all known that for years and years. But yeah, I really do like the plot and I like the characters, but I have some trouble with the writing style. I feel like it's pretty slow, and that's not an uncommon opinion from what I know. So yeah, 4 stars from me to this book. The next book that I read, I feel like it's a 5-star book, story-wise, writing-wise, everything. But it has one really fatal flaw, which brought it down to 4.5 stars for me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to draw away a whole star or just a half. I ended up drawing away a half because this flaw really disturbs me. And it is World War Z by Max Brooks. This is Swedish, so Världskrigssätta instead of World War Z. This book takes place after the zombie apocalypse, and it's basically composed of several interviews with different people from different parts of the world who, you know, gone through stuff during the zombie war. And it was really, really good. I really liked the fact that they really had different voices, all the interviewed. But the thing is, I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but I think there are like maybe 45 interviews in this, and only 5 were of women, and I'm not impressed. Like, that's so easy to change and make more of the interview being women. It's so simple. And it really disturbs me because otherwise this book would definitely have been among my favorites. So those were all of the books that I read during the month, but I also read 2 graphic novels, so I'm going to show those to you as well. The first one is Blue is the Warmest Color by Julie Moreau. This book follows 2 girls who fall in love, basically. It's a tragedy, it's kind of heartbreaking, but I do recommend it. However, there is quite a lot of nudity in it, there's a lot of sex, so if that's something you're sensitive to, then maybe you should avoid it. The next graphic novel that I read was Chew, Volume 1, Taster's Choice by John Layman and Rob Guillory. There's been a lot of buzz about this graphic novel on BookTube lately, and I found it in my library, so I thought, let's check it out. This book follows a man named John Chew. He is a cop, and he's also a psychopath, which basically means that if he tastes food, he knows where it came from. So if it's vegetables, he'll know which kind of chemicals were used in the making of it. If he tastes an animal, he'll know how it was butchered, so he doesn't eat that because that's nasty. And if he eats humans, well, you guessed it, he knows what happened to them. So this is something that comes into use when he's a cop and he's going to solve murders. This graphic novel was really good. I really, really liked it, and it was really funny as well, so I'm definitely going to read the next few volumes in this. I want to warn you that there's quite a lot of gore in this, which, you know, is expected because for one, it's like a crime novel, and for the second, the main character eats humans, so that's a thing. So those were all the books that I read in March. I actually had quite a good reading month. The thing is, I didn't think that I had because I didn't feel like I read that much, but apparently I did because that's quite a decent stack of books. If you have read any of these books, please tell me what you thought of them in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye!